You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. Well, do you have a friend, or do you have some relatives can't find a job or can't find the job that you want? Well, you're really going to want to hear from my next guest, because he's going to explain to you how to access the shadow job market. Yes, there is the market out there, employment agencies, headhunters, and everything else. And then there's the shadow market that few of you know about, but you really need to know about. His name is Anish Majumdar. And Anish, it's great to have you on the show. So what is the shadow job market?
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Kerry. And yeah, I know I love the mystery attached to it. Here's the short answer. I'm a pretty visual guy. I want you to imagine what the shadow job market is. Imagine that you're hungry, you want some fruit, you set up in your car. I'm going to the grocery store. The biggest thing in your vision right now is the freeway. It is huge. You see the on-ramp to it. That's where most cars are. And so the assumption is, okay, the fruit is at the end of that highway. What the shadow job market is, and it's been around a lot more longer than the job boards and all of that, is simply a way to refer to every other way that you can get your fruit, your goal, your career goal that doesn't involve you going in the most obvious, most flagged place, which is, hey, the job boards, which is there. It's basically understanding that they don't have the market cornered. They have somewhere between 20% of all jobs, roughly speaking, of the market, way less of the executive market, because people don't want to hire executives cold like that. And so it's the shadow market is essentially a way of saying, okay, if there's this much other opportunity all around me that never makes it to these job boards, is there a way that I can diversify what I'm doing in terms of who I'm building relationships with, who I'm adding value to, who I'm exploring things with, who I'm identifying pain with, that allows me to put myself into the mix of this type of emergent pain at these companies before it becomes a job posting? And that's basically the other way to look at the shadow market. Job postings are old. They are old opportunities that have been around usually for a very long time at a company. They have not been able to solve it. And as they've failed in solving it, they've been tacking on requirements. The whole goal to success here is not to be the best version at capturing this day-old bread, but to diversify enough to say, okay, these are the old state stuff. Great. That means there's 5, 6, 7, 8 times as many opportunities that are working its way through the pipeline. I need to start putting myself into the zone where I can start capturing that, and what me and my team do, what we specialize in, is helping people across the board implement a system for generating these types of opportunities, these offers, through the shadow market. And what happens for most people is that, I'm a mountain biker. Once I have a car, but I got to tell you, once I felt the addiction of how quickly I can get results out there all on my own, you're never coming back to that freeway. And that tends to be what it's been like for the majority of the 2,000 plus people that we've helped to date, is once you start seeing this, like, okay, this is how much opportunity I have in front of me. This is what a little bit of creativity, a little bit of courage, a little bit of thinking differently and a system does. You're never going to go through the degrading, embarrassing ordeal of blasting out your resume, spending 45 minutes repeating that information into a job board only for the sacred privilege of someone, for example, like you, being vetted by someone fresh out of college, and everything about you that makes you unique about your journey as a recovering attorney. I'm not looking at that through the lens of the value of your podcast, all of this. I'm fresh out of college. I'm seeing someone who's old, out of date, someone who never really figured out what they were doing, someone I need to take some kind of a risk and a chance on, someone I'm not going to take a chance on. That's what the job market is. And anyone out there listening, don't be a fool in thinking that, oh, just because I don't see what I want there because I spent 20 minutes on Monster and Indeed, I'm going to make huge career decisions based on that. That's why I'm here, is to start shaking people a little bit out of their apathy a little bit, and start telling them, yeah, all the opportunity is there, but it's not just going to come like spoon-fed to you. You're going to have to do a little bit differently here, as obviously you have in your own life.
Sure. So thinking outside the box, obviously, but so Anish, when you're going for a job,
yep,
really, it's like the people who are interviewing you are really looking for reasons not to hire you, right?
Yep.
Not looking for reasons to hire you. They're looking for reasons to get rid of you,
yep,
to filter out the unqualified candidates, right?
Yes.
So the shadow job market, can anybody access it?
Yes. The way that you want to think about this is you want to think about changing certain aspects of this thing so that the game that you're playing itself changes. And specifically, what I mean is the first impression that you're putting out has got to change. And we can talk a little bit about that. In other words, most people that I see out there of all levels, they haven't gotten the memo that skills trading. In other words, if I'm working with a CTO or a CIO who's working for a Fortune 500, looking for a Fortune 500 capacity, a big mistake I see people who could absolutely attain that level, but their brand on LinkedIn, their brand on their resume, and the things that they're talking to on there, it's a glorified IT manager. They're out there trading, saying, hey, this is how many years of software. With all due respect, that may be what we wanted at an IT manager level. What we want from a CIO, I could get away with a one-page resume that has no tech information whatsoever. Why? Because I want you as a strategic partner to my business. I'm not interested in hearing what your 10, 15, 20 years of tech background is. I want you speaking like this. So one thing anyone can do, right? If you want to change this, and this is, by the way, this is going to help you in traditional hiring just as much as it's going to start opening up this channel. Look at your brand and ask yourself, am I trading on skills? Am I still just trying to puff up and puff up and puff up and be a better candidate? Or am I using secondhand brand stuff like, hey, I worked for Amazon 4 years ago, ergo, this makes me great here. None of that is going to work. Ask yourself, can I start branding myself around a process, right? In other words, if it's not, just using you as an example, if it's not Kerry who can succeed at an executive level or a business builder level or whatever you're doing through your background, if it's, what's Kerry's magical process? What's something that because of your journey, because of, yes, your legal background, your entrepreneurial background, every single piece here, what's a way that you can move a company forward that only you can do, that is deeply reliant on your background and only your background? If your brand started the process of being positioned around that, it takes away 80, 90% of the desperation that people feel, because most people don't want to network because they think the only reason you're going to build a relationship with me is to hamstring me for a job. So start thinking about, can I change my first impression to stand for a way of change, to stand for a way forward, right? A way that I could ideally engage on LinkedIn on, I could have conversations on, I could start building conversations on, this is key, with people based around my offer, my process, right? And that is the first of the big changes that we would look at. The second one would be using that first impression, that different first impression, to build relationships. We use LinkedIn and we have our automation system, but anyone can do it through LinkedIn or anything else. Then what we will do is we'll use that different first impression to change the kind of people you're targeting and change the kind of leverage you have, so that, this is very, very important, the relationships that you are building are based on the pretext not of I'm doing Kerry a favor, that's not going to work, but based on the pretext of, I have a very busy day, the rest of my week is busy with clients, media opportunities, etc. If I have 30 minutes with you, I'm choosing to take 30 minutes out of my time because based on what I see, based on a little bit of the dialogue that we have, I can see some real value here. Like we're looking to solve certain issues at this company that kind of align with a little bit of what this process is that you have. So at the very least, I can ask you a couple of questions, and you, very critically, are going to use these opportunities not to sell yourself, not to pitch yourself. All of that is low level. What you're going to do is you're going to use this leverage to have an outcomes-driven conversation that has one goal: identifying what is actually going on here, whether it's a job posting or not. And understand that job postings are notorious liars. 98% of what's in a job posting is a lie, because obviously, think about it from a business perspective, right?
Yeah,
it's not going to work. So understand, change the first impression, use it for a different kind of conversation with a different level of people, mostly C-suite would be target number one, and then use what you're identifying in that conversation as leverage towards the offer. Now, that may sound simplistic, but I'm here to tell you that is completely the opposite of how everyone out there thinks that they want to get a job. Because what they do is they capture the posting, they change their brand to somehow mimic their posting. They make it, if they're lucky, into that first round, second round. The second they go into that second round, what unique value do you have? They don't have it. They're compared and contrasted and lowballed all the way through. That's the traditional process. This would be a way to actually have some power there. Now, before we just move on with this, I want to know if this is resonating for you, because clearly you've been around the block enough to know BS when you hear it. And the only reason I'm here is to if I can affect one of your listeners, one. I'm not saying 100, because quite frankly, I'm not convinced that 100 people are out there who have the will to break out. You might have a more highfalutin idea of your audience. I'm here for one. I'm here for one person who has understood this, one person who has actually suffered through this, and one person who is angry enough, as I was, looking at my family and realizing I'm never going to get there, dude. Like, my accomplishments are never going to, accomplishments have nothing to do with success here. I want to know if this is resonating with you before we go any further.
Well, my audience is so well off from all the advice that they've listened to on this show for the past 11 years. I don't know how many of them are actually looking for jobs, but certainly you have children out there.
I know advice is everywhere, but I'll tell you something. The number of people who actually act on that is extremely infinitesimally small. And I got to be honest with you. I'm not really that interested in, someone listening to this as like their virtuous version of watching a TV episode. I want them to actually look at this, right? When they're looking at this, I want them to actually have their LinkedIn profile up. I want them to actually look at this and stop blaming their company, their boss, their industry, the Great Resignation for why something's not happening. And I got to be honest with you. You're right. I'm already successful, but I got to tell you, it really upsets me how much blaming is going on, how much desperation, and how much straight up cowardice that needs to be addressed, that needs to be looked at. So you tell me how we're going to solve that.
You got to own your situation, whatever it is. You are where you are because your choices over the years have led you there. So, Anish, like, it's definitely resonating. I know there's always hacks. There's always better ways of doing things. And you get into a rut of thinking, I've always done it this way, and therefore that's the right way to do it. And we know that's not necessarily true. What are 3 things that anybody who is part of the community listening to this show, what are 3 things they could do right now that will dramatically improve their job prospects?
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Goldterra Resource Corp is a gold exploration company that has assembled a highly prospective district-scale land position on the doorstep of the city of Yellowknife in Canada's Northwest Territories. Goldterra is currently focused on expanding and delineating gold resources at the company's Yellowknife City Gold Project, with a goal of discovering over 5 million ounces. With ready access to infrastructure and multiple high-grade gold discoveries, Goldterra is on track to re-establishing Yellowknife as one of the premier gold mining districts in Canada. Goldterra trades as YGT in Toronto and YGTFF on the OTC. For more information, go to goldterracorp.com. That's goldterracorp.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
So I think one practical thing anyone can do is, instead of looking at the target jobs or job postings as a kind of benchmark in terms of how do I brand and position myself, a far more effective thing that anyone can do, start benchmarking actual competitors who are, let's say, 3 to 4 levels higher than you, right? So if you're on a tech zone, ask yourself, what would be the ultimate expression, again, of my process, my way of thinking, or at least my zone? pull up actual LinkedIn profiles. When you actually start looking at the commonalities of the people who are the most visible in your sector, in the niche that you're looking for, that's going to give you the real clues in terms of what types of keywords, for example, can I integrate into my LinkedIn profile? What types of details should I be focusing on? What should I not? So competitors, I think, are a far better benchmark in terms of this. I think what we were talking about earlier, in terms of a process, Gail, one of our clients, she had been in HR, Fortune 500 level, basically for the better part of 2 decades. She got screwed over at her last job, so she lost a bunch of money and stuff that she thought that she was going to, retire on. She was like, "Hey, I don't know if I know how experienced I am at this. I don't know if I want to go back into a Fortune 500 one." A lot of people get hung up on this. I would say put the idea of a dream job or a dream company off for a second and ask yourself, okay, what's this way that I can do it? And what's a way that I can stand for this process? Who are the people that I can benchmark? And like Gail, what she discovered is by opening herself up and standing for a way of driving change through her process, it allowed her to immediately differentiate against most of the corporate idiots, which constitutes HR. It immediately allowed her to draw a line. And now what she's doing is she's literally working with high growth companies and mid-stage companies that are filled with people who are 30 to 40 years younger than her. And they love her because out of all of this, testosterone that's flowing around, she's like the tough freaking grandma who can come in and say, "No, idiot, you're not doing that. You're not doing that," right? We've made that mistake before at a scale 8 times your scale, right? So this is what we're going to do, right? This is the change that we're going to make. So these are 2 things that anyone can do. Benchmark real competitors. Stop making yourself generic based on these job postings. Start asking yourself what you actually stand for, and know if you don't have anything more to stand for than a bunch of skills, and if you have no bigger why behind why you want something better than I want to get paid more, you have some thinking to do. And the third thing would be really understand your goal for every meeting, interview, everything like that. It's give and take. It's not give. So give and take means what are you got in the door? What is your goal here? First interaction is always identifying the pain underneath the surface. So the question should be, for most people, when you go into an interview, when you go into a meeting, you should be listening most of the time. You should be asking questions 99% of the time. And where the conversation goes should be drilled in by your questions. So ask yourself, that should be the preparation, not looking for answers to gotcha questions and what was your biggest failure and all of that. How can I direct this conversation in a meaningful way through a place of respect, through a place of depth to understand what is truly going on here? If you do that right, by the way, you're giving one of the most valuable acts of service and value to the people that you're meeting with, because no matter who we're talking about here, I don't care if you're talking about the CEO of an organization right now, they're making 50, 500 decisions, but they don't know what you know in your path, in your way. That's your power. That's your leverage. That's the thing that you want to use as your hook for building these relationships and using it, because in that way, if me just getting to know Kerry for 30 minutes, that doesn't have that much value, quite frankly. But me spending 30 to 40 minutes speaking with you where you can direct it, and I'm getting massive insight into the areas that you play ball in, and you're identifying what's going on here so that in the follow-up, if you want to, you can look at this and say, this is something that is worth me taking myself out of the market for a year plus, which is what a full-time job is, really. It's worth me doing that. It's at least worth me looking deeply into that. So if I'm going to follow up with Anish, I want to go in based on this. What are you guys going to do about X, Y, and Z? Here's what I see. Here's what I want to focus on, right? This is the push and pull that we're talking about. And if you're going into an interview and you've prepared and you've said 99% of what's there and you think you've done well and they've told you that you've done well and you leave, ignore the opportunity, okay? You've got nothing to go on there, okay? Stop being a good student. It would be my third and most important thing here. Stop being a good student. Stop thinking like a leader. Start thinking like an equal in this process, and understand that some of the heavy lifting is going to have to be done by your behavior and your balls. It's not all just going to be, branding and good advice.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Makes a lot of sense. And I know you're going to want to find out more about this. And Anish, where do we find you? How do we connect with you on the web? How do we get involved with your coaching program?
I really, appreciated the chance to talk about this. HelloAnish.com is a ground central if you want to go deeper into my trainings and my videos. There is a special link, tap the hidden job /market/ASAP, which for that 1 in 100, if you want to actually just right now learn the actual strategy, it's about a 1-hour masterclass that me and my team just did. It'll teach you exactly what's there. We've had people who've never worked with us who have implemented that strategy and landed better jobs. So that's free to anyone who wants to access that. And I guess the final one would be LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, stop wasting your time scrolling through. It's not meant to be Facebook number 2. If you want some advice in terms of what's actually working out there, go over to Anish, go over to Career. Not many brown guys in this industry. Follow me and stay up to date, because every day we are sharing lessons from the trenches of people who actually do have the courage to do this, of people who actually do have the ability to actually create and wrest control of their destiny instead of spending their whole life waiting for a handout.
All right, I like it. And we'll have a link in the show notes to this interview on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Click it and see what Anish has to offer. And while you're there, sign up for the free newsletter if you haven't done it already. And financialsurvivalnetwork.com. You got a question for Anish? Shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. We'll get you an answer quickly. Anish, been a great pleasure having you on. Good luck, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you, my man. I really appreciate it. Good luck with your incredible podcast and much, much, much continued success.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.